Hello there. In this video I'm going to show you how you can create this personalised Celtic knot pendant. In this instance I've put the letter A Harrington font letter A in the centre of it, but you can put any object basically. And we've got some three-leaf Celtic knot patterns here. They're wrapped inside a four-leaf Celtic knot pattern which has just been stretched a little bit. And so we're going to use Fluid Designer for 3D printing to do this. So if you load Fluid Designer up, just click on Group Library to refresh this file list here. I'm going to use alphabet Harrington fonts, so I'm going to use this letter here in the centre, but you can place any object basically in the centre of it. And we're going to create a pendant here. And there are a number of Celtic knot patterns which you can purchase to use with Fluid Designer for 3D printing, and I'm just scrolling down until I find them. So we're going to use this three-leaf Celtic knot pattern. There is another version here which is a three-dimensional version, it's not a flat version. Similarly there's a three-dimensional four-leaf one, but I'm going to use this flat version. So I'm going to use this object and this one. And so what I do is just drag and drop that onto the workspace. Now this is a parametric smart object, and we could just use the features that are here to make a pendant, but we're not going to do that in this instance. We're just going to stick with one copy of this, and I'm going to change the actual thickness of it. So at the moment, say because it's a parametric smart object, it's got a cross-section diameter of 1 millimeter. I'm going to change it to 1 by 2, so I'm just going to give it some extra thickness. So it's 1 millimeter by 2 millimeters there. Now this is a little bit too small at the moment to put my three-leaf Celtic knot patterns in there. So I'm going to scale this up, and I'll just switch on screencast key so you can, screencast key so you can see any key presses I make down here. So if I press the S key on the keyboard, and if I type 2, it will scale it up by a factor of 2, and then I press the enter key. Now whenever you scale curves, whenever you scale parametric objects in Fluid Designer for 3D printing, you must always do Control A and apply the scale. And when I do that, the cross-sectional thickness will switch back to the value over here of 1 by 2. If you don't do Control A and apply the scale, you will have problems in terms of knowing exactly what size your objects are. Now if I go to View and Top View, I'm going to add some Celtic knot patterns here, the three-leaf ones. So if I go to File and Append, I'm already in the Pendants folder, and so that's where my three-leaf Celtic knot pattern is going to be. So I look for the three-leaf one. I don't want the three-dimensional one, so I want this object here, and it's always the object that we append. So it's Celtic knot pendant three-leaf, and we just append that from the library. Now that is also 1 millimeter cross section, so I'm going to just change that to 1 by 2 so that it's just the same as my four-leaf pattern. And this one I'm going to need to scale it down so it fits in here. So I'm going to kind of guess that at the moment. So I'll press S on the keyboard for scale, and I'll just scale it down and do Control A and apply the scale. If you don't do that, you will have problems in knowing what size your objects are. So I'll switch to top view, and I'm just going to move this across over to here. I've probably got to scale it down a little bit more. So I'll scale it down once more, Control A and apply the scale, remember. And I'm going to rotate this now. So I'm going to rotate it, I think it's the opposite way. So I'm going to rotate it about the Z-axis. And I want it to sort of fit in nicely there. So about 35, something like that looks okay. Now I'm just going to switch off the snap. And I'm just going to zoom in here, and I'm just, without the snap on it, gives me a better control over the position of this. So I might want to just rotate it a little bit more perhaps. I'll perhaps do it to 40 degrees. You can play around. It just depends where you decide to position this. Okay, so I think that's all right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mirror that to get an object over on this side. Now if I just go to modifiers and do a mirror modifier, nothing seems to, oh well, something happens when I select Y and Z. Nothing happens with Z, but you can see it's positioned here, which is not where I want it. And the reason for that is because of the centre of gravity of this object at the moment is here rather than the origin, and we can see that over here. We've also got this rotation value as well. Now the way to set all these back to 0, there's a number of ways, but I can do it by Control A and apply the location, and notice it sets it back to here. And I also want to do Control A and apply the rotation and set that back to 0, and notice when you've got all these values at 0, the mirror works now. And if I actually select Y, notice I can mirror it down at the bottom as well. So you could do it like that and put the letter A in the middle, but I'm actually going to show you how you can stretch this object a little bit. So I'm not going to mirror that one at the moment. I'm going to add a few more things to the pendant first. I'm going to put the letter A in the centre first of all. So if we go to File and Append, now here we're going to have to go up through the menu system, and we always go up until we get to the Groups folder. I'm going to use an Harrington font, and I'm going to use the capital letter A, and we always append the object. So it's Harrington font A, we append it from the library. And again, I'm going to have to scale this, so if I scale it down to about there perhaps, always do Control A and apply the scale, otherwise the thickness won't be right. And I'm just going to pull it down a little bit there. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the 4-leaf Celtic knot pattern there, and if I go into edit mode, and if I press the A key on the keyboard to deselect all those control points, and if I just hold down the shift key, and if I just highlight those 4 control points there, and if I drag down on the green arrow here, you can see I can change the shape of this. Now I've got proportional editing on at the moment, which is the big circle on the outside, and what I want to do is to move that in a little bit. I don't want to distort anything above the letter A. I just want to pull this bit down so I get a kind of heart shape there. Okay, so when I'm happy with that, so I'm using the center mouse button to control the position of the proportional editing circle, that's the white circle, and I'm just dragging these points down, which gives me this nice heart shape now. When you're happy with the position of that, you can press the tab key to go out of edit mode, and I can just reposition this A a bit now. Now you do need to make sure that it's touching some parts of the pendant, otherwise it won't be 3D printable, it'll just fall out. So it's touching here, so that's okay. Next thing I could do, well, I could put a connector at the top, so that's a little ring like this, and they're in the connectors folder. So I can add one of these wire connector rings here. So if I go to File and Append, just go up through the menu system, go to 3D Templates, Connectors, and I'll use the one with the 2mm diameter hole, and it's the object, and so I can just append that from the library. Just click on it to select it, just move it up into position. You can double check it with the wireframe mode, so just know that it's in the middle there. Now at the moment that's rounded. If I want to make it the same thickness as the Celtic knot pattern, I can, with that selected, if I hold down the shift key, if I select the Celtic knot pattern and Tools, Object Tools and Join, that will take on the same thickness 1x2 as the actual Celtic knot pattern there, which is what I'm looking for in this instance. You don't have to do that, but that's what I want. Now I want to put some Celtic knot patterns down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Tools, Object Tools. I'm going to duplicate this particular object and just pull it down. Now I'm going to remove the mirror object at the moment, and actually no, I should have, let me just do Control Z. I'll leave that on actually. So I need to reposition this object, and I've probably got to rotate it about the Z. Ignore the one on the left at the moment. We'll We'll put that back in position in a second. So I'll just position the one on the right here. Oops, I'm going the wrong way there, I think. I just need to move it more in that direction. Probably take it a little bit back this time. So you can play around with that until you're happy with the position of it. Probably a bit more, maybe. Yeah, maybe like that. Now this one's not in the right position because of the angle here, so if I do Control A and apply the rotation, and we've also got this location issue as well, if I do Control A and apply the location, what it's doing is setting the centre of gravity of this back to the cursor here, and so when it mirrors it you get that in the right position because our object here is centred about there. So that's essentially it now, and we can see what the size of this is. It's about 20, just over 25, it's about 28 millimeters tall, so in other words it's about 1 inch in imperial units, so that's a reasonable size for a pendant. Now what we want to do is to join all these objects together, and what you should do is change them to convert them to meshes, and Tools, Object Tools, and convert it to a mesh. Click on the A, Tools, Object Tools, and convert it to a mesh, and Tools, Object Tools, and convert it to a mesh. And then if I select the two Celtic knot patterns at the top and the one at the bottom, and then the A, I can just join those together, and holding down the Shift key again, highlight the 4-leaf Celtic knot pattern and join them. So they're all the same thickness now, and they're all joined together. So all you need to do now is to go to File and export it, and I tend to use the wavefront format. Now I did save it earlier, and what you need to do is to go to Netfab, import it into the Netfab, and just run it through the repair procedure there. Now you probably noticed this one, the Celtic knot pattern, I got it slightly different orientation on this version compared to what I've just done, but you know, you can put it however you want, and you can put any letter you want on the inside. So that's how you can create a 4-leaf and 3-leaf Celtic knot pattern and personalise it. Good luck with creating your own.